Going on, everybody? Welcome. Another episode of Propping Up, Old Boys Network, brought to you by Pickett and Boom Fantasy. GriffyBets, joined by WallaBets. Thanks for joining us. Fresh week. Last week was, I don't know, we've had better weeks as a pair, I would say. I, for one, took the weekend off a little bit. I absolutely loved it. I would urge anybody to, if they can, try and step away every now and then. And just go do something fun because I feel a little refreshed this morning. I hope that translates to some winning bets. How are you doing, Wall?
I'm all right. Just been back and forth lately. Just Saturday was okay, and then yesterday was just a little let down by a couple of guys. But it looks like a good slate today. Just looking through some nice matchups, and looks good for some goals and points for some guys. So I think we could find some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some obvious spots that you'd want to load up. I mean, be a surprise if Edmonton can't pour them on here. Hosts in San Jose, Colorado conceivably should destroy Chicago, and then I mean Pittsburgh, Ottawa just looked like a lot of fun to me on both ends. I'd love to, maybe before we dig into it, I wrote a mini essay in Gold Boys for those that are in there. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, just about the same game parlay market. We're a week in. I, for one, really let it consume my entire focus. I think that was just a mixture, just something new and shiny, and Massachusetts being legal now and it being just a whole lot easier for me to get these wagers placed. So I, for one, I definitely placed a lot. And I think when I look back on it, it was really, I must have had 5 to 6 lottos for some significant money that just kept falling one shot short, or like I needed 2 more shots on goal total and just obviously kept missing and missing, which is frustrating. But also on the other hand, be like, all right, I mean, we're circling a lot of the right guys. Why am I not betting straights anymore? So I definitely need to get back to that being my foundational piece, but it's still really hard to not load up a couple of these stacks every night because we see them hitting. A lot of it, it's just, there's a lot of luck involved. It's very random. But you look at some of these obvious games and there's a ton of guys hitting 3 and 4 shots. So to me, it's really hard to not continue to fire these off when it makes sense. Maybe cut down on the outcomes a little bit. These 8 leg parlays all the time. That seems a little silly, but picking 4 or 5 guys, I don't know. I think there's still merit to it. I think lowering the risk and the units invested in it is important here, but I don't know how to not keep firing these off. But I just need to limit myself and get back to the straights.
Yeah, definitely managing your units is a good spot to start. If you're doing a lot of the lottos, I know it's tempting. You want to just, hit really big, win a huge amount, but, keep it manageable with your bankroll. And also, when you're looking online and you're seeing people hitting these $1,000 parlays and stuff, you got to also think what their unit size might be. Always keep that in mind. So keep it manageable with yourself, and you can still have fun and not do too much damage to your own bankroll. But it is hard to turn down. There's a lot of really good hit rates for a lot of guys, but obviously, a lot of stuff can happen. I think the obvious game people look at is whenever the Panthers are playing, especially at home. And I know if you had Bennett for 3 shots in any of these recently, he was letting you down while the rest of the team's going off, and Bennett's normally, crushing it at home. So that's why you just want to be manageable. But I still think they're good. Those types of matchups, Panthers at home, while sometimes things can go wrong, it's still a great spot, and you can hit some big parlays that way. But yeah, I think the straights, you still got to keep those in there to, get some wins and have the money to do parlays with, smaller unit sizes, even if it's like 0.1. If, you hit one of those big parlays, you're still bringing in a good amount. And you just don't always want to be firing off throwing a unit on these parlays and draining your bankroll. You can get it back if one hits, but you might end up losing too much before before then.
I lost so many different lottos by one leg that I had already pushed. Sam Bennett loss was already pushed out of my brain. I thanks for reminding me on how close we were to that one. That bastard.
Yeah, Saturday there was so many shots, and the game before there was a lot of shots, and Bennett's just he was getting a lot at home, let him down. But if you had some different tickets without him in there, the Panthers have been really solid at home. So I'm still excited about it, but yeah, it's easy to get carried away with them.
Yeah, I would say, if you're listening, if we're working on the assumption you're placing, maybe $20 on a straight bet, I would have to say you got to try and cap yourself at $5 at most on some of these lottos. That's the easiest way to put it into just monetary, like $5, like a cup of coffee. Try not to, if you're betting $20 on something straight, don't start firing 20 or even more on these parlays because the payout looks so amazing. I make that mistake sometimes too, especially if beers are involved. But just try not to go crazy because the losses can add up in a hurry. Sure, the wins can make up for it all, but the more outcomes, obviously the harder it is to land. So just something I got to keep top of mind myself, lead by example a little bit more. But there are some great looking spots tonight.
Yeah, these couple of these matchups are good spots, I think, for you to find some players to stack if you don't want to, do some of the juice or try to have to pick a certain player. And it looks like a good spot for some of these guys. I don't know what game you want to start with. Ottawa.
I suppose so. Yeah, I kind of tunnel visioned right to this game this morning, and I didn't. I haven't gotten to share it out yet, but I just did an entire article just on this game and what I was seeing because it seems. You just look high level. Really, all Pittsburgh games have been pretty high scoring this year. At home they're averaging about 37, letting up 33, and Ottawa's been they're letting up 33 on the road and they're shooting over 30. But I also just liked both teams getting penalized at a pretty decent chunk here. So a couple power plays on both sides made me like I definitely think shots look good here. They met in January. The most recent meeting led to 99 total shots, 44 and 45. I can't remember who had the 45. Doesn't really matter. So do I expect 99 shots again? No, but I think we were chatting earlier. The Barstool line on just total shots on goal here is 68.5, which is hitting 3 of the last 4 meetings. If you want to just throw out caring about who it is that's shooting, that seems like a pretty nice path to just bring on the shots. I don't care who's doing it. Seems like a pretty nice number.
Yeah, I was looking at that one a bit. Same reason. If you have that market available, just not having to pick somebody when you like 4 or 5 different people in one game. Just hope that everybody gets involved and there's just a ton of shots. I haven't decided if I'm going to play that, but I think there's another market on there that looks interesting is the power play goal market, which isn't available on every book. But Ottawa, I think, was like minus 114 or something like that to get a power play goal, which I think isn't that bad. Brady Kachuk, he's got a power play point in 3 straight games. Stutzel's been racking up points, not always on the power play, but just guys that are rolling. And if they're given enough opportunities in a game where you expect shots, that seemed like a really good price to me. And that power play too can get hot sometimes. We saw that we had a show where we talked about them for like 10 minutes, the power play 2 on Ottawa. So that seemed like a pretty decent price for this matchup in particular. So I wrote that one down. I didn't I have a couple things written down on my radar to look at, and that was one of them. Looked pretty good.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's penalty kill's been fine, not amazing. I got them at 80.6% in the last 20 days, just pretty middling. But yeah, both teams are handing out over 3 power play opportunities per game. So as long as that is out there, I found I know we talk about Drake Batherson when he's at home, but I just find it crazy. Last 11 games, Batherson's got 17 shots on the power play, which is 5 more than Kachuk, 7 more than DeBrincat. Those are the top 3 power play shooters. I love Batherson down at 2. Seems like an awesome leg with something. He's hit that in what looks like, I think it's 20 of, well, 83% on the year, but I think it's like 20 of his last 22 games. He has 2 shots. And on the road, 9 straight. So we talk about how awesome he is at home. He is very steady at home, getting over 2.5. I mean, he's averaging 3.6 shots per game in his last 10 at home. But that power play shots, that just really stood out to me with Batherson. I like his 2+ in a little parlay of something. Seems like a nice leg.
Yeah, I think there's a few guys who look good on that side, especially if you can move them down a line. So that one looks pretty good to me. We have somebody in chat bringing up Raquel, which is a good one. I wanted to talk about that. He has a nice trend against Ottawa, scoring what was it, in like 5 straight?
5 straight.
Yeah, so yeah, he's been I kind of like Raquel as like one of those guys where when you kind of expect him to get involved in the score sheet, he seems to come through. And I don't mean to just like that as a reasoning to like him, but one of those guys where when the data kind of lines up, he's really good. And he's been on that top line, and the other 2 guys on his line are at 1.5 points. He's still at a point. So I think that's, just solid in general. He can get involved real easily when you see the guys around him are expected to be involved.
Yeah, and speaking of power play shot leaders, that's Raquel on the Pittsburgh end. Last 10, 11 games, he's got 11 shots. We've talked about how Ottawa's penalty problems kind of been a year-long thing at this point, but knowing that those are probably coming, I like Raquel goal a lot.
Minus
I like
150 for a point, very reasonable. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no,
wasn't expecting it to be that good.
Yeah, point looks good. Goal looked good. I did put a free bet on Raquel goal with McDavid, just like a small-minded, or Raquel with Draisaitl, sorry. Just like that power play shots. He's got a goal in 3 of his last 5. But yeah, I mean, I think his shots, this is another guy's shots look pretty good. If you're going to build a stack, I definitely think Raquel should be a part of it at 2 or 3.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder what on Bet365 3 shots and a point would come in at. That could be also a pretty reasonable play.
I feel like we should probably mention Jason Zucker. It's probably going to be a popular name today. I did play it. I just did a half unit myself because I figured I know I'm going to do a same game parlay stack in this game for a little bit. So just try not to go overboard with the investment in shots, but he's hitting 5 straight, averaging 4.6 in those 5. At home, he's got 4+ in 5 of his last 6, which you love to see. He hit last time against Ottawa. Really just felt like one of the only playable guys for me. Straight minus 115 still is. Yeah, I'm just riding a little streak here, but volume's nice. Game script is certainly nice. And I like that he's landed on 4 more than 3.
Yeah, he was somebody I wrote down too. It was kind of just a few guys, like I said, having trouble picking one. He looks really good. Like you said, good volume. I was trying to find I was looking at his chart, just trying to find a time where he had volume this high. There was a little bit earlier in the season, and he was hitting this line. And then even if you go back to last season, at the beginning of last season, he had volume similar to this, and he had hit in 7 straight at one point then. Because I know sometimes you see these streaks and try to figure out when it might end, but he has gone on streaks with these shots, and yeah, it makes sense when the volume's there, and he's had it lately. So that was one I wrote down for Pittsburgh side. Thought I thought Letang looked pretty good, just how he's been at home. He's had some nice games against Ottawa previously, and just his volume at home has been awesome lately. Maybe doesn't shoot as much on the power play, but he is on it, and nice reasonable price there in this game.
Yeah. The only other shot play I put in here, again, I think you could convince yourself about just about anyone in this game. I did like DeBrincat up at 4, which was plus 162. I put a half unit on that. Me and Alex haven't gotten along a ton this year, but I'm hoping my continued blind faith in him will eventually deliver me a winner. But I just liked, again, he's involved on the power play. He's got 4 shots in 4 of his last 7 games, which includes 3 of his last 5 on the road. And he's just really liked Pittsburgh. He's got 4 shots in both meetings this year with Ottawa. He had 8 last year when he was on Chicago. And his last 2 games, he's got 9 attempts in both of them. So I'm just seeing a guy's letting it rip lately, and nice history against Pittsburgh. So I'm taking a little stab there at plus 162.
It's not a bad one up at the alt line there. I actually wanted to stay on that side, but about points, I thought that you could make a pretty decent parlay looking at Stützle and Kachuk. They've Stützle for sure. I mean, he's got like 18 or 16 or 18 points in his last 10 games, a lot of 2-point games if you want to possibly look at those alt point lines that have been showing up on FanDuel now. He's been racking up a lot of points, but it makes sense, a correlated parlay with Kachuk as well, both on the power play. And also both have had points against Pittsburgh in both their meetings. I saw it at minus 120. Thought that looked pretty solid if I'm going the player prop route instead of the power play goal, which I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of them who got involved on that. So that was something I was liking today, parlaying those 2 guys for a point. I expect there to be goals. And if I was looking at that side, that's where I would go, those 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate just all this talk about all these shots we think are coming and points. Maybe just take the over. Definitely could lead to that. One half of that, I decided to just go on Pittsburgh's goals. Barstool Bet Rivers are the only places that I think allow you to do this, but I moved Pittsburgh's team total up to 4 flat at plus 125, including overtime option. I just decided to do that instead of the 3.5 at minus 130. Mostly just Ottawa's been on an absolute gauntlet of a schedule lately. Their last 4 games, Toronto, Colorado, Edmonton, Calgary, all teams that I would definitely say it was similar sort of offensive makeup to Pittsburgh. And all 4 of those teams have scored 5 goals or more. And then going back even further, Vancouver, Seattle, and Chicago also got 4 plus. Vancouver and Chicago each scored 5. So I just went 4 at plus 125. It opens the door for a push. But based on this and some past games against Pittsburgh, I think they're good for 5 here. Just looking at averages, and power play chances and all the shots coming. So I'm just riding with the Ottawa struggles right now and took the Penguins at 4 goals.
All right, sorry. If you're liking Penguins, all right, here's one we could kind of have fun with. So I'm looking at the points and I saw Zucker's at minus 102. He hasn't had a point in 3 games, but he's been pretty solid at home. Malkin, who's been on his line, is 1.5 points. So expecting points from him. He's been pretty solid, but then I just switched and his last 10, all of those points are all goals for Zucker at plus 200, and he has a goal in both games against Ottawa. So that could be he's shooting a lot, and always higher volume with the shooting can lead to goals, and he hasn't had anything in a few games. Good matchup. I don't know. I think I saw the projected goalie and net hadn't been playing too hot. So if keep an eye on that. But Yeah, that one's kind of interesting to me with how many shots he's had, and just majority of his points have been goals. All those points at home, most except for one in his last 10 have been goals. That could be good.
Yeah,
Plus 200.
that's a great call. I mean, even his point minus 102 is pretty solid. I like that approach there to, the books are kind of tipping their hands with Malkin at 1.5 points. I mean, his play kind of warrants a line like that, but
Power play, different lines too. But yeah, still, just he's been pretty hot at home, shooting a lot. If that volume's going to be there, he could end up scoring again. He was doing it for a bit on home ice, so plus 200 looks pretty decent.
yeah, that's nice. Malkin assist at minus 130 doesn't look too bad either. We could get lost in this game. I think we already have. We should probably keep it moving.
Yeah.
I guess we just go to Florida, Detroit. I haven't looked at anything else yet, so some of this is going to be live. I mean, initial thoughts were, I don't know. I thought Detroit shots and goals looked okay here. I guess you can always say Florida shots look fine. I mean, they definitely shoot a lot less on the road, and the Red Wings have been pretty stingy. But I haven't looked into how these teams have fared recently. That was just my initial pass. I'd almost rather focus on Colorado and Edmonton than Florida tonight. I don't know if you found anything.
Well, the fact that Florida's not on home ice, I mean, they shoot a lot, but there's definitely an advantage with the stat keepers in Florida. I mean, how often do we? I mean, I look at my guy and he has 2 shots, and I'm like, dang it, and I just like refresh and there's 4. It's so them being away maybe could cause a little hesitation on loading up on everybody, but yeah, I think the Detroit side, like you said, looks pretty interesting. Larkin's been heating up again with shots. He had 2 shots last time he played Florida, but he had hit in like 4 consecutive against them prior to that. So him being shooting more lately in this matchup could be good with power play opportunities and everything. What I thought was interesting is he just doesn't get points against Florida despite all the shooting. I don't like, you just look and it's just against Florida last 5 games, he does not have a point. Last 5 games against Florida, but he's over his shots in 4 of those 5, and it's 4+ in each of those. So I just thought that was just an interesting kind of thing. His shots are picking up again lately, though, so I think he could possibly have a nice game here.
Remind me who you're talking about? Larkin?
Yeah, Larkin.
Okay.
Just does not get points against Florida at all. Last 5 games, 0 points, but 4 shot games against them. So maybe he could stay hot with his shots today. He's been shooting a bit more lately.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think it's interesting. My initial flag was feeling meh about Florida shots, but I did like them for a goal and definitely on the power play. Detroit's penalty kill is 77.5% last 20 days, is definitely bottom 10, and they're handing out 4 power play opportunities per game lately. Florida's been a pretty solid power play scoring team. I just find it interesting. Florida went to Detroit in January. They only got 20 shots off, but they got 2 power play goals on 2 chances. So sort of aligned with how I was viewing this, which makes me want to look into those guys that are involved on a power play lately. I mean, even Barcel's Florida to score a power play goal at minus 125, which is a pretty solid price. I feel like lately every time I want to take something like that, it's been minus 190. So pleasantly surprised to find that. I'd be interested what some of these guys on the top power play line, what their points are.
Let's see, Kachuk's at minus 110, which makes sense. He has in his last 5, he has 5 power play points. So that makes sense. I think I always like trying to find somebody else around him who's at a better price. Reinhardt has a few lately, plus 164. Could possibly be an angle there.
I don't know. I'm seeing Brandon Montour's on the top power play line. He's got a power play point in 4 straight games, and last time against Detroit, plus 166.
Yeah, that's solid.
Granted, all of this has been at home. I should be splitting up power play success on the road, but he still has 4 power play points in his last 9 on the road, which isn't amazing, but
He's got a lot of
still.
assists and points though, just in general. If you wanted to play it safe, look against Detroit. Chart against Detroit for a point is pretty awesome. 5 of his last 6 against them. It's minus 150 for a point there. So I don't know what people like playing up their straight plays up to, but he's been getting 2-point games lately, looking solid on the road, solid numbers in this matchup, involved on the power play. So that could be if you can't do same game parlays for point, we were talking about Raquel from the other game, possibly something there. But I like that. I like that. It's a really good angle. Good flag on that power play point too.
It's interesting. I think another new thing that we haven't highlighted is the alternate points on FanDuel is a pretty exciting development in both directions. I mean, you can take a guy up to 2 or 3 if you're feeling crazy, but you could water a guy down as well when they're up. Someone like Barkov, who's typically at 1.5, he is today. He's got a point in at least 6 straight against Detroit. I'd have to look back further. Usually over 2, but I mean, he's got 1 and 8 of 9. Moving a guy down like that and pairing it with something. You can't do it in the same game, unfortunately. Maybe they're inching their way there. Fingers crossed,
Awesome.
but
that'd be great.
Definitely keep your eye on that because not a lot of books are offering stuff like that. So when we get it, it's certainly exciting. It's something I want to dig into.
Yeah. His assist at minus 106 though. That's what all of his points against Detroit have been. A lot of the points lately. So if you don't want to parlay with somebody else and you want to get a little bit better price, Montour assist looks really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in Montour. I think I'm going to hang off this game for shots. I don't know. Just not in love with it.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of if you want to keep riding with Florida, they do tend to shoot a lot. Just think a lot of these guys come through a little bit more at home. But that's never if you like doing those stacks, it's Florida. That's never an awful option. Some of these guys just go off for 4 shots, and the value when you pair some together is good. So, if that's what you want to do, you can. I'm gonna look at points in that one though. I think I'm liking a few angles there.
I was trying to poke around on, we talked about Malkin earlier. Malkin and Barkov to each get a point is minus 123. Not amazing. I wanted to see maybe tack on McDavid to that, and I look and he's minus 1100 for 1 point. That's hardly gonna. It gets to minus 102, but I can certainly not advise on adding a minus 1100 to a parlay. But
that's insane. Is that 2.5 points again today?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think some of these alt lines watered down with points in these games. Some of these guys are just always involved. No alt points in Colorado yet. They must know they're going to pour them on.
All their lines are pretty much at 1.5 anyway. The main guys. So,
well, I know that's why I'm saying I'd love to water some of these guys down. Actually, there's no Colorado props up at all right now. I wonder if something happened.
Huh. Do you want to talk about that game at all? Just move on to that one. I think, as long as the main guys are in for Colorado, you could look at these 1.5 point lines. Honestly, McKinnon, he's been over in 6 of his last 10 with 2 points, back-to-back games with 3 points. He has 2 points in both games against Chicago. You got Miko at 2 points, Makar at 2 points. So those guys are always involved together. So he's looking good. And then you got plus money on the other 2 guys. Makar, that looks pretty solid too. Plus 146 for 2 points. He's hit that in 3 of his last 4. I think these guys could have a game today against Chicago.
Yeah, I would be. I know they lost to them last time, but I would definitely be surprised if they can't.
Makar ruled out. That's why lines went down. So that makes sense.
Damn, I was gonna say I'd like Makar watered down back to his 1 point that I was hammering him at. Um,
Well, I wonder
wow,
what.
interesting. That I mean that immediately makes Tays
I was just
very
gonna say
intriguing.
Tays is plus 102 for a point.
If you can, I mean, it's pulled off FanDuel, but if you can get that, I mean, the main appeal there with Tays is definitely getting moved up to that top power play, where I do think, yeah, Colorado looks pretty great for a power play goal. Let me poke around and see how Tays' game log is without Makar lately.
Yeah, because he's not super consistent with points by any means, but that could be
No,
just good opportunity for him. Byram,
ugh. His game log without Makar does not
yeah.
elicit much confidence out of me. I'm out.
What about Byram?
Let's see.
He's got a point in 3 of his last 4. Maybe he gets some opportunity. I don't know. You got to look at these
He's
lines, see who's getting
he
opportunity.
Byram has a point in 4 of his last 5 without Makar, and looks like 6 of his last 7, 6 of his last 8. Sorry, um, that's an interesting one.
I like those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I like when
Sounded
things
nice.
happen. Yeah,
Those
I'll
sounded
write
like
that
nice
down.
numbers to me if you get the opportunity to, if he gets a line.
Huh. No Makar is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, especially for the, if you're looking at 2+ points for these other people like I was talking about, that's a bummer. I don't like McKinnon as much for 2 points if Makar's not there. He's been a big part of
Well,
the
I was
scoring.
gonna say, I mean, I know McKinnon was just on an absolute tear, and he still kind of is, but he's got a goal in 9 or 10 straight without Makar this year, and all but 2 games had at least 6 shots. Again, I mean that was end of February when he was just on an absolute rampage, but that was no Makar.
His line's going to come up.
He's
Come back
minus.
up probably juiced. It was
God, he's
already
minus.
minus 140.
That's ridiculous. But that's certainly interesting.
Well,
Maybe
all
I'll
right. So
pair.
I'm looking. Just
Go
we've
to
said this a few times. McKinnon, you might as well just play at 6 shots. A lot of time, in a lot of these
I
games,
mean, yeah, it looks good against Chicago. 6 and 8 last 2.
and at home, the last 6 times he's went over 4.5. It's been 6+ shots, so he can get the at home get the volume. And I think against Chicago, if Carr's out, that could be a very good look in this one.
Yeah, I'd say so. Why don't we jump to Edmonton? Because with Makar out, I think we're ill prepared to give any quick insight, and it's already 136. Um, I think summary Colorado shots, goals, power play goals still look good without Makar. So I would just poke around. If I usually just use StatMuse and I'll look up a guy, Nathan McKinnon game log without Makar. Quick way to pull up, how a guy's done, or just look at the Avs in general without Makar. I mean, they won 5 of their last 6 without Makar before he came back. So obviously, awesome player. They should be able to handle Chicago still without him. So yeah, McKinnon probably my preferred look there. But I like that Byron point too. We'll keep an eye on if we get a line there.
Yeah, let's move to the Sharks Oilers.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. I mean, be very surprised if Edmonton doesn't have their way here tonight. Was there any trends in particular that were standing out to you?
Well, I actually, if I was gonna go a straight play on shots in this game, I kind of think it's a good, buy spot on McDavid with his price at 3.5. Minus 130, but for a bit he was 4.5. I know his volume and stuff has been down recently, but there's been more road games in there, and he's been far better at home. At this line has against the Sharks he had 5 shots last time. Just think if you like playing McDavid or anything like that, this is one of the better prices you'll get him at for 4 shots. and he's back, at home in a good spot. He's been solid this season, and for what it's worth, he did go under against Dallas, but hasn't gone back to back under at home in a bit. So I think this would be the ideal time to try to get him if you can. Or goal. I mean, goal is always the good look, but I just thought that his home hit rate, this could be the buy low spot for his shots. But I like his goal. Maybe parlay it with Draisaitl. Simple one there, but they should be able to score in this game.
Yeah, agreed. And for the most part, it actually, this almost makes me like it more. He didn't do it last game, but basically every time McDavid scores, he gets 3 shots. I'd have to look back on what that number was, but I think it was over 90% of the games he has scored, he gets 3 shots, and he didn't on Saturday, which makes me think, if you like him to score, tack on that 3 shots, should get him to plus money, I believe. I would have to, I guess I can double check my work real quick. Wow, it does not. Minus 128, the two of them. He's crazy juiced.
Too juiced today.
Well, maybe you do 4, but all right, forget what I just said there. Yeah, I think the usual guys look pretty great. I kind of liked how Draisaitl was pretty steady with his shots against the Sharks, was sticking out to me.
They've been letting up tons of shots too. Was that 36 in their last 10 on the road a game? So
and just a
volume,
a clean sweep here of San Jose. 3.9 power play opportunities allowed last 20. Horrible penalty kill going up against one of the best power plays in the league. So both the shooters and the guys that are just involved scoring there, I may just have to, I know it's crazy juiced, some kind of form of Edmonton's team total. But more often than not, it's just going to be Draisaitl McDavid. So yeah, maybe it is just keep it simple and combine those two. It's a smash spot.
It was 243. Yeah, I don't think either of them are plus money to score on their own. But yeah, that parlay has hit in a lot of games this season, so it's a pretty good spot for it to happen again.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those I kind of want to. This is where I need to work on limiting myself. McDavid Draisaitl on FanDuel plus 246. But for some reason, I just want to immediately tack on also their 4 shots and bring it to plus 683. And that doesn't always have to be the case. Them to both get 3 brings it to plus 383. Maybe it doesn't always have to be shots. Maybe just go their goals and leave it at that. But yeah.
I just think that with McDavid up at 2.5 points, with how much he's been scoring, he's at minus 140 for a goal. Just Sharks have just been not great. So it's hard to look at shots though for a lot of these people on the Oilers who've been going under lately. So that's the only reason why I was talking about McDavid. Just seems like this could be a good game to get it back together for him.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, last time they met, Oilers won 7-1 and got 41 shots off. That's the first meeting of the year.
And that was when the Sharks had some players.
Yeah, unless Timo was hurt in January, he should have been out there. He was there. He didn't do much. Yeah, let's see, how many times did they? Yeah, he scored twice on the power play on 4 chances. Yeah, I would say similar. Maybe you go the over. Jack Campbell was in net that game. He let up that massive 1 goal to help the over cash. I think the over set at 7 here. So that was the difference last time.
Oilers had to do the main lifting there, though.
Yeah, last game, I know I just said I don't want to do this, but last game, Draisaitl, 5 shots, goal, 2 assists. McDavid, 5 shots, 2 goals. I don't know. If I'm gonna do any combination of shots and goals, it's those two guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really know what else to articulate here. I'm certainly not looking at San Jose for shots.
Not at the moment, really. No, I mean, Hurdle's been up and down. I always catch him on the down games though, but he's gone two over and an under, two over and an under, now two over. Um, yeah, it's hard to trust him really. He's not super consistent, but he does have more volume since all of the players are traded away. So, but I like I just like Oilers to get some goals, and yeah, that's my look would be McDavid and Draisaitl. I think we could probably just go to the last game.
All right, Calgary, LA. I thought this was an interesting one from the sense that both teams are pretty tight to shots, but both offenses shoot a lot. I was interested in what's going to reign supreme here. I think last meeting they both, I should double check, but I saw they both got over 30 shots as a team. Yeah, 32 and 30. Really dating back the last couple of years, they typically both get over 30 shots. So even though these are two teams I wouldn't normally target, I feel like the offense is kind of warrant it. I almost want to take the Kings to win because I think the Flames are frauds. Every time I watch them, my eyes bleed from just how inefficient they are. Maybe they had a good weekend. I was off the map, but Kings did win in December at home, 4-3.
Some weird lines in this game too. I noticed when I was just looking across, Pickett. I saw Backlund. He's at 3.5. Really juiced for the under, and then Barstool had him down. I think they have him at 2.5 shots a goal, like -114 or something like that. Which Backlund's been shooting a lot lately, but that always sketches me out a bit. But he's been hitting three a lot, so if you like Backlund, there's a really good price there on Barstool. I know Toffoli, who I thought if I was gonna maybe trust somebody despite the numbers, I thought he looked pretty good at three shots. He had opened at like -125 on Barstool and was more juiced elsewhere. He seems kind of interesting to me today. He has really nice road volume, been super consistent, overall at the 2.5 shots line. His time on ice was up a bit these past couple games. Fine volume for somebody going for three shots. And he's hitting 4 of his last 6 against the Kings, which he used to play there. So just thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. I'll look at that, of course. Yeah, Toffoli screwed me in 2 straight parlays and then followed it up with 2 straight games at 4. What a surprise! What a nice guy. I could stay off of him for everyone else's sake, but I would agree he looks pretty good at first pass.
There's this guy who's talking in the chat right now who I think he was this guy who came into Discord talking about defensemen and how you shouldn't bet them. But if you just want to look at the numbers and not, defensemen have a harder time shooting. That's for sure. That's why I want to follow them when they have the volume and against teams who have been loose to defensemen lately. So I don't think that it's necessarily bad to play defensemen. I've had a lot of hits this season. Ekblad went on a run for a bit, 4+ shots and 9 straight games all at plus money. And when the volume's there and good targets, they can definitely come through for you. Unfortunately, Hedman didn't yesterday, but he had 5 and 4 against the Devils previous to that, and Montour and Ekblad went off. So there are some good spots. I wouldn't ignore them completely, but yeah, it's important to keep in mind who that they're going to have, shooting from a further spot. So block shots can happen. That's why you typically want to look for the defensemen who are getting tons of volume lately. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think last season someone else was getting mad when I was playing some defensemen and there was variance. But yeah, I mean, I've had a pretty good season so far, so I'm not going to start ignoring defensemen with just because there was a bad game from Hedman. I think that's silly.
No. Yeah, I think right now, there tends to be those teams that just, for whatever reason, defensemen have really been shining lately. Right now, that's Montreal for me. When I just see Montreal, I'm looking on whoever the defenseman opposite them is. They're letting up over 12 shots per game, and some just massive games from defensemen when they get the Canadians. But on that
Yeah,
topic, these are two of the tightest teams to that position. So I certainly would maybe stay away from. It's not even that many options, but Rasmus Anderson, Hannafin.
yeah, not a good target. But there's absolutely numbers and stuff that make them good spots. I saw people playing Theodore at over 2.5 shots yesterday for plus money, and he hadn't hit that in a few games. But who are they playing? The Blue Jackets, who give up a ton of shots to defensemen, especially on the road. And Theodore had 3 shots at least when I was looking. So there's good times to target them if you believe in the process, and there's data there. So I think we can, yeah, not throw that out the window because of a bad game. But in this one, Toffoli definitely stood out to me, especially when he opened up at -125. Just looks like if you're not going to look at the shots allowed numbers between these two teams and just trust a guy to go off, that was where I ended up looking. And I mean, Arvidsson's been good lately, but 3.5 line against Calgary is a little scary, despite him hitting so often. It's just, if you imagine him to end his streak, this would be a solid spot to get stifled.
Yeah, he's rolling. I thought Kopitar looked kind of interesting to me. He's hitting 5 straight at this 1.5 line against Calgary. I think I was hoping maybe the Barstool total shots line would be a little soft. It's at 61.5, which is kind of, they're right on with that number based on last couple of meetings between these two teams. It's typically 59 to 62. I think I'll just stay off this. Plus, it's at 10:30, and I just watched 4 straight days of basketball, and I'm still recovering. So I think I'll be asleep by the time this one really gets into the thick of it.
Yeah, on paper, it's a little bit of a rougher spot, especially if you like, the overs and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I just think there's a lot of opportunity in those other matchups where there's some more enticing stuff if you're going the route of wanting goals and shots. If you're like unders and stuff, like Griffey said, those are two teams that are letting up far less shots than some of these other guys. So there could be opportunity in this game to find some unders, but just a lot of good looking, like you said, straight green across the board in those other games where the numbers just make sense for a team to shoot and get some goals.
For sure. All right, why don't we transition to best bets? Is there any that you wrote down that weren't on your radar but now you're liking?
Zucker, his point maybe a little bit on his goal at +200. Just he's been pretty solid at home, and just seeing Malkin on his line, who's definitely capable of getting somebody else involved. I thought that price looked pretty solid for straight play. Either way, goal +200 just seems really nice. He's been hot lately, shooting a lot. So I'm gonna dabble on that. I think I might do like 0.75 on his point and then a quarter unit on his goal. Just hope he scores, get it. But if he gets an assist, I'll still walk away with some profit there. If you want to go, I got a bunch of stuff written down, but that was the one that I circled.
So. Yeah, I definitely like Pittsburgh's team total up at 4. Ottawa's just been really loose lately to some really great offenses, and Pittsburgh should be able to keep that shot volume going. So excited for that one. Some that I'm interested in that I hadn't had a chance to dig into. Either I should probably play it safe, but I think Florida power play goal at -125 seems pretty solid. If anyone, I'd probably do Brandon Montour power play point, but I think I might just try to opt for the safer route there with a power play goal. I thought that Byram point's interesting. We'll see if we get it. I thought that trend without Makar in a game, they definitely should get 4+ goals. But it does feel like kind of a stud night. Nathan McKinnon stepping up, and I think we didn't talk about it, but I think our picket play of the day should just be McDavid, Draisaitl, both to score a goal. If that works for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it. Just looking at that game, looking at all the lines in it, trying to find something that makes sense. I think that they can both easily score in this one. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, the two combined to score is plus 246 on FanDuel, which is certainly much better than DraftKings, which is plus 155. I would recommend never same game parlaying goals over on DraftKings. And thanks to Pickett for helping flag why, because those prices are just abysmal. So plus 246, both scored against the Sharks last time. They're definitely going to get their power play chances, and it's the two motors there. So in a game, they poured on 7 last time there in San Jose. Both of them scored then. Would like them to do it again.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Those guys are. It's a very core. Like you've seen it. You saw them each get hot, each score. There's plenty of games where that's happened. So, I think it's a good look in this spot for sure.
Yeah, and lately, I don't know, home stretch of the year, I've been gravitating towards the studs more than trying to find these diamonds in a rough. I don't know. If you're going to bet someone to score, it just seems like the studs that are shooting the most and scoring the most in the year are your best bets, which might sound obvious, but it's still where my focus is going for the most part.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really like McKinnon for the 6+ shots today.
Yeah.
Just trusted him, especially if with Kale out, that should obviously have him shoot a little bit more. Just a really good matchup, and he's been hitting 6 a lot when he goes over, and if he has an under game, he has an under game, but at least I feel when I try to find those diamonds in the rough, and I'm thinking I found something great, and then they have a crap game, it's just like, I'm just like, what was I thinking? With McKinnon, more often than not, he's having big games, and it's a good spot. So I really like that with Makar out.
Yeah. Still not up, but FanDuel is opening back up Colorado props. So McKinnon's minus 152 to go over 4.5. So I wouldn't expect anything crazy, but I don't know, plus 170 seems maybe in the cards for 6.
That would be cool.
Something I'd be fine to do. And yeah, I think his goal looks pretty okay as well. Alrighty. Well, hopefully we have a good Monday. I would love to win some bets for sure. I think that would be a really fun thing to do.
I agree. We should do that.
All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hope we brought up some that seemed interesting to you. Hopefully you pick out the winners, and we will see you back here on Wednesday.
Yep. Thanks for joining, guys.